Imagine you have a pot of boiling water in front of you and you have no choice but to be thrown into it. It's scary, isn't it? Now, think of all those lentils that we cook every day, of those potatoes and all of those eggs that we throw into boiling water on a daily basis. Each one of them come out very different, delivering excellent tastes. Lentils turn into gravy. Potatoes are excellent mashed up. I love mashed potatoes. And an egg comes out really hard, right? Something soft, something's gravy, something is really, really hard. All of them extremely edible and really tasty. Is getting into boiling water scary now? That's a question that I would want to start my presentation with. 2020
Like
has been a
30
different
then
year.
whole.
From widespread bushfires leading to the loss of
जल्दी कर
millions of
जल्दी कर
animal lives to a global pandemic impacting millions of lives around the world, migrant crises, stock market crashes, economic recession, and aircraft crashes, riots, the list goes on. Unprecedented times? Is that something that's really real? A word for something like this? And yet, we have all survived this recession and we will survive it with a great deal of power, right? Now, how does one do that, right? What is it that we are hearing from our employees? If you look at the screen, you will see a lot of research has been done over the past 3 months to take stock of the wave of uncertainty that has hit us. Many of these insights from paradigm shift in everything that we thought we knew. As you read them, you will notice that there are very distinctive connecting factors in the sentiments that we have before us. People expect the future to be different. They expect that their companies will give them a secure future, and they want to be in constant communication on what is being done to endure that. By the end of this session, I hope to circle back to these key tenets that are so representative of the collective sentiment of employees across the world. The first thing that I would want to talk about is, are we ready to listen? Are we ready to ask more questions? Are we really listening to our employees? Are we understanding their sentiments and then beginning to act around it? Are we ready to do that in an iterative basis continuously? I think it's important for us in the current situation more than ever to continue to do what is the right thing, to continue to influence leadership styles, to continue to build on culture. Shraddha in the previous session talked about culture, and I think there's nothing more important than really building the right culture, specifically at this particular time. In our global annual survey, which we call as Dell, and where we collect feedback from our employees, um, we have received this year significant amount of feedback from our employees. Strangely, and we were surprised because of that, the amount of people who responded to that survey this year superseded all the previous years. And what gave us immense amount of happiness is that our Dell scores, where the key measure is the employee ENPS, was really the highest amongst all the previous years that we have measured it. Yet they gave us feedback and we have to listen to what they said, right? So we have to engage them. We have to have our leadership team engaged. We have to figure out what is the next steps as far as action is taken. ENPS, a key measure of success, a key measure of team member satisfaction and engagement, I think is a big tool for us to leverage during these times to hear back from our employees as to what they are actually telling us. The second piece of advice that I would have, and that's something that's working really, really well for us at Dell, is communicate. Communicate to the point of over communication. Connect with your employees in different ways. Connect with them in formal one-on-ones, connect with them in fun events, connect with them in doing different kinds of things virtually, because that's something that today is very important. Every employee, you and I together, are afraid of what's going to happen. We don't know. The degree of uncertainty, the degree of not being in a predictable scenario disturbs a human being. And therefore, when you want to get out of the noise and actually get the employees to start focusing on productive behavior, communication becomes your strongest tool ever. We've leveraged technology and really made connection to our employees possible. Whether it's all hands, it's emails, it's video blogs, it's fun events, it's just doing some kind of communication over a collaboration channel. Leverage technology, do different things. One of the things that I can tell you that I do in every staff is actually start my staff with a game. When you're meeting face to face, there is a different kind of relationship that you're building, a very different essence that is there, and very different chemistry. It's necessary for us to build that. What does this game do? We all laugh together. We de-stress ourselves. We take the negative energies out of the system, and we bind ourselves closer to each other. Another example that I want to give you is, I don't know how many of you have heard about this, and if you're following Michael on Twitter or LinkedIn, you would have seen it. Michael actually read a storybook to all the employees' children, and you cannot even begin to understand the kind of connect that had with all the children. When children send him their own drawings and cards and stuff like that, I'm sure Michael enjoyed it the most, but I think that kind of connect really helped all of us. Moving on, I think it's important to start focusing on the talent, because again, I'm going to take it back to my old friend Shraddha. Um, Talent is really the base of everything that we do. At Dell, our people philosophy was already very strong. We were really leveraging the entire spectrum of employee engagement, of talent management, of ensuring that we had the right policies, right? But it was still very important for us to figure out why we need to do what we are doing. Does it need any kind of change? Does some things need overemphasis or not? So one of the few things that we did was we figured out what are our current policies, right? Do any of them need changes, right? So we went back to our policy drawing board and said, okay, these four things can possibly be bettered to ensure that our employees who are now working remote are far more productive, happier in an environment that is relatively lesser stress or less stress free. The second thing that we did was we leveraged our employee resource groups. Employee resource groups is a beautiful platform for our employees to get together, and they are connected at the same core. So if you're talking about somebody in a family balance ERG versus a true ability ERG, where you're connected because you have the same value system. So we got our ERGs working at a supersonic high speed. The third thing that we did was really focus on employee well-being. We already had a very strong well-being program, but really bringing that out and focusing on it, gamifying well-being, right? Ensuring that you're doing health-a-cons, you're doing step-thons, you're doing different kinds of things where, even just breathing exercises, and you're doing competitions around breathing exercises. We got the entire thing around employee health and well-being into the focus and really helped employees start to discover ways that if they are in stress or if their family members are in stress, how can we at Dell help them and what is it that they can leverage? The fourth bit of this exercise was taking learning virtual, right? We already had virtual sessions, we had classroom sessions with different kinds of learning. But in a scenario where you can't get together and physical workshops cannot happen, what do you do? We have some very good leadership programs that focused a lot on getting together, on actually being together in a remote environment, high degree of physical activity, high degree of togetherness. How does one change and adapt those courses and those workshops and those year-long programs to become virtual and not lose their meaning? That is something that we have very successfully adapted to. The last part is how and when to get back to site. You're already working, you're doing an awesome job. At some point of time, we want to bring our teams back to site. How does one define what that time is? How does one define what should be the phases of getting back to site? Who gets back first, second, third, fourth, and the courses, right? Really starting from today and working towards what the future will look like. So that was really on a people side as to what we would want to do with our people. We've all gone virtual, right? We know that. Our customers don't want to see us physically in their offices. I don't know whether how many customers, except the banking customers, are really at a site, banking and manufacturing customers. So if our customers don't want to see us at site, how do you enable virtual environments and actually meet them virtually? What we have seen is that the current situation has actually turned into an advantage. I have done at least 7 EBCs in the last 4 months with customers in Japan and across APJC. How? Without traveling. It's because technology allows you to do it. If you invest in the right technology, if you invest in the right kind of networks, and if you invest more specifically on the right kind of security, all of that is possible. Today, our entire sales force, our entire pre-sales force, and our entire customer communication is on is based on technology, is based on the various groups like what we are using right now, or other tools that are available in the marketplace. It allows me to be in Japan and India and China on the same day. It allows my customer who would possibly travel to us during an EBC to be available to me in larger numbers. So my reach to customers is far more higher than it is today, right? So I think that's something that we've seen become far more better with going virtual. The other aspect of going virtual, and I'll cover that in the future slides, is really how do you focus on employee engagement. I think there are two things that we have done very well in the employee engagement, and I would lead to that. Yeah. Sorry, my slides didn't move a little bit as fast as I would want them to be. Um, One of the key tenets of our employee engagement policy is really giving back to the society. We have significant amount of goals that are attached to a leadership level and at a middle management level that are linked to giving back to the society. We redefined our moonshot goals for 2030 last year, and one of them was that we would go out and transform 1 billion lives, 1 billion lives by 2030. Now, when you want to do something like that and you have such an audacious goal, you really need the pandemic of this nature not to stop you. So, how does one do something like that and really continue to engage your employees in activities that gives them pleasure and it gives them purpose to their life, right, outside of their entire work environment? So teaching rural children virtually is something that we've done very well. Um, we have gone ahead and created audiobooks, right, for for the specially abled people who cannot read but can listen. Okay, audiobooks become very important. We've recorded over 550 audiobooks in the last 4 months. Uh, we've um, we've actually been doing a lot for planet Earth. Right, earlier we used to go out and actually focus on planting trees in forest areas across mountains and stuff like that. We've moved that to doing it at home because you cannot do it. How do you make pots which are, really focused on something that is um, far more ecocentric and environment friendly? So those are kind of things that we have been doing with our employees around uh, contributing back to the society. And that's something that has really, really helped us quite a bit in our employee engagement pillar. The other one is, how do you build your brand, right? In a situation like this. One of, again, the important pillars of building a brand is your employee experience. What is your day one onboarding experience to a remote employee? How do you ensure that employees that have quit and are joining other companies have an excellent experience while they leave the organization, are handing back their stuff? How do you ensure that your interns that are joining in, okay, and are going to be virtual without ever seeing face to face their managers and their teams, have the right kind of experience, right? Now, in a situation like this, when we are in a lockdown mode, okay, and you cannot send a laptop to a new joinee, to a new intern, so that they can have an awesome day one experience, what do? You invest in technology. Okay, you invest in a VDI environment. You actually get them to start looking at and connecting into the Dell environment on their own personal equipment that they had at home. um, so you decide what is the best mantra really that you want to leverage to actually give your employees the right kind of experience. In a scenario as we are living in today, where everybody who can be 90 to 95% of the workforce is actually going virtual, how do you attract the right kind of talent? Today, the entire globe is a talent base. How do you get that in is also a key tenet of how you could possibly do the right kind of branding. Coming back to the policy, and I think I mentioned this earlier, what we are doing as a last kind of phase, which takes us into the future, is building the connected workplace 2.0. We actually launched this program called Connected Workplace way back in 2009. And in 2013, we established a goal saying that we would enable 50% of our employees being remote. We define remote as somebody who is working from a location that's not a Dell site, and has the ability to come into the office maybe 1 day or 2 days in a week, but at least 3 days of the week, that person is remote. In 2013, when we established that, we had a goal of 50%. We were already 65% of our employees were working remote when the pandemic happened. So quickly converting them was easy. Now, when you have the balanced 35% of your employees that need to work remote, you need to have a better platform and a far more inclusive platform. And that's something that we are doing right now. And by this month end, which is about 4 days away, we'll actually be launching the second phase of the connected workplace. I'm hoping that in the last 20 minutes, there were enough takeaways for all of you. Um, I would want to end the session with three takeaways that I would, really want you guys to think about. The first one would be listen and act, listen and act. Do that on an iterative basis. Continue to over communicate. The second one would be ensure you're engaging your employees through ERGs, through community contributions. Give them a purpose to life that is beyond their work. And the third that I would think is the most important is to continue to have continuous learning as a culture. How do you continuously innovate your own policies? So, how do you learn to do that? Okay, how do you continuously learn to employ newer and better future looking technology and therefore enable your employees to have the mindset to continuously learn and to be productive? That's where I would want to end this session. Back to you, Nivedita. Any questions that you would want me to answer?
Sheenam, in the interest of time, we sort of have to move on with the sessions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheenam.